You've dreamed about the perfect house, a place to call your own, and a place to not only stretch out, but to grow. Auto Owners protects your house because to you, it's home. That's simple human sense. Happy to help, man. I was just over there talking to myself anyway.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Red Raider Coaches Show. We took a break last week. We had some scheduling conflicts, specifically me. I had to be out of town and it just didn't quite work out, so we wanted to get back with you this week. We're really excited. A couple things as we have wound up the regular season, Coach, and we're headed to the playoffs, and we'll get to that in just a few moments because we want to do review a little bit. We want to go back a couple weeks and discuss, I guess, go back to the Brooks County game. Right. But by the way, my name is Brent Johnson. I'm along here with head coach Mark Wilson of the Bacon County Red Raiders. And Coach, I always ask you how you doing.
Doing great. Yeah.
We got a little hurricane coming up.
Yeah, that's right. Another one.
Another one. I think this one might affect us actually a little bit more.
I believe you're right.
I don't think it's going to change our schedule any,
right.
But I think we're going to get a little wind and a little rain off of this
exactly
one,
right.
and that's something we need. But it is a little unusual to have something like this happen in November. Usually the hottest months of August, September, maybe October, we get a storm like this, but we're just glad that it's not going to be any worse in Florida than it already is. They're still reeling from the prior hurricane down there in the southwestern part of Florida, but this is going to kind of impact coming up through Florida, back into the Gulf, and then swing back over into Georgia and eventually end up in South Carolina, they're saying. So it's going to maybe affect a little wider range of people, but hopefully when it hits land, it'll dissipate and just get a little rain, a little bit of wind for everybody. But anyway, so Coach, a couple weeks ago we hosted the defending state champion,
That's right.
And they just happened to be in our region.
That's right.
Here at Red Raider Field, I was excited about that. I have a lot of respect for their coach.
Coach Freeman does a great job, no doubt.
That's right. He's been there. He's one of the longest tenured coaches, I think, in the state as well.
He is. He was there one time before and left and came back. So he's been there a while and from there, I think. So.
Yes, I believe that's the story. Well, we're always, and we talked about this a little bit throughout the season. We played several teams this year that's what we strive to be.
That's right. No doubt. Our schedule, like I said, is probably one of the toughest in the state. I was looking at it the other day, and we played 3 number 2s and a 4 and a 5 this year in the state. So out of 10 ball games, and
that's right.
And
I can't imagine there be any other
I can't either.
team in the state. We could argue that.
That's right. That's right.
With Clinch, with Johnson, either one of those teams could win that other division,
exactly.
single A. And we got Swainsboro coming up. We'll talk about them in a minute, but obviously Brooks and Irwin. And those two teams played for the state championship last year, and now they're both in our region. But the thing that stood out to me, Coach, for that Brooks County game is how well our defense come out.
No doubt. First half, we just went toe to toe and was real physical with them. We talked to kids about being fast and physical that week, and we were gonna have to, and coming off a tough loss with Pelham, you just don't know how you respond. But our kids got a lot of character and a lot of fight in them, and came out and really got after it on the defensive side and did real well.
Well, it was senior night.
That's right.
So they kind of got up for that, and we recognized the rec ball teams. So it was fun.
Yeah, it was. That was a good time.
Good time before the game. We do have several seniors that have play a significant role on our team. We don't have many of them, but they play significant roles, and we're very, very proud of those student athletes. And it's always good to recognize them. Now the score got a little more lopsided in the second half.
I mean, that's a young team. They have been there before, those kind of things like that. They probably got one of the best defenses in the state, if not the best. They're so fast and physical, and we couldn't move the ball when we did. We'd stall a little bit. So, it sort of broke open the last week.
Right.
Got a couple turnovers there.
Big sixes. Man,
that you can't. It's hard to come over that.
That'll inflate a score pretty
exactly. And so, but the kids, like I said, they fought to the end, and we were proud of that.
And that's what they've done all season, and that's something we've talked about. Is there's no quit in this team. I'm very proud of the number. That's still out. We had a tough season last year. Had a lot of kids. Had some issues. It just snowballed. I think we ended up with maybe 22 or 3 kids, and actually only like 18 that dressed. Maybe that last game, and this year we've lost a handful, but but it's I've just been real pleased with the attitude, the mentality, and it had to start with the coaching staff.
Well, I tell you what, our coach has done a good job, and you know, the kids that we have lost have been JV kids after the JV season. Right. I tell them, if you can go on, if you don't want to keep going, you know, those guys that do, they'll get a lot of experience, and hopefully they will. But some of them had some job issues and things like that to help their families, so we understand that. And but I told our kids, and a lot of people don't realize this. Brookses and the Irwins, they've played about 60 ball games the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I asked our kids the other day, how many of y'all played 10 ball games? And we've had 4.
Oh my.
And so the grind of the season, you got to learn that grind and that physical, you know, on your body,
that's right.
You know, to do that. And so that's where experience comes in. And so that's the thing that you know, people don't realize, but our kids have a lot of character in there. They're getting through it. Mm-hmm. They know the process that they got to take to do it, and it's just a matter of them having a lot of character and a lot of fight about them. And that's says a lot about their parents, a lot about the community, a lot about the school, and we feel very fortunate that we can that we have those kids, and most of them coming back, and the future's going to be bright.
Well, ultimately, it's that culture that you have to, and a lot of people, including myself in a lot of cases, don't understand what it takes to win. And win or compete. Let me say that. Compete consistently year in and year out, and what it takes, and the commitment that it takes, not only from our kids, from our coaches, and like you said, our community. And it starts at the house.
No doubt.
It starts building that character there. And then we try our best here at the schoolhouse, in the classrooms, in the hallways, and on the practice fields. And hopefully it shows up on Friday nights on a consistent basis. And that's what we're trying to do here, is to instill those characteristics that will help those guys be not only physically capable of playing 60 games in the last 3 or 4 years, but mentally.
That's the big part people don't realize. You can be big and strong, but mentally you got to go through those things. That's toughness and that grind, like you say, and those things.
Well, that stat you said, I want to reiterate that. You talked about, you know, specifically say Irwin has played about 60 games in the last.
They played in the state championship in the last 4 years.
That's 4 years. So they're playing
15
games a year. You know, and he asked our kids, about how many games have you played 10 games in the last?
Well, 9. What they played last year, so we're sitting at 9. We had 4 kids that's ever, you know, that has played that many games. So I mean, that's the big thing. Been on that varsity experience. That's 240 practices that Irwin's gotten. Wow. You know, that's more practices. That's 240 to. You know, ours that our guys have really, some of them first year playing, some of them were freshmen and sophomores and didn't get to play a lot. So, you know, our guys have experience-wise, that's a lot of it.
That absolutely puts it in perspective. It really does. And that's where we want to be. That's what we're looking to do and to compete at that level. And then we turn around, Coach. We had to travel to Irwin this past Friday night.
Yeah, that was a buzzsaw. But
I tell you what, I thought you know, Clinch looked pretty good. I thought Johnson County is a good football team. Thought Brooks was pretty solid. Now I know Brooks had lost their starting quarterback the week prior against Irwin County, but man, Irwin, they look.
They do. They've been running that system for a while. I think about 10 years, and they know it well. And you know, we had some key injuries. We had 3 starters out injured, and you know, those things that you know, a young team and somebody that you know, you stick somebody younger in there.
That's right.
If you got somebody young, and you stick somebody younger in there. Yeah. But they got a good experience, and like I say, like I told our kid, we'll remember that score, and we'll remember that ought to fuel our fire for working in the off season.
That's right.
And doing what we need to do to get to that level, and when they come to our place, it'll be a little different.
And once again, you know, no quit, no fight. Y'all saw the score, and obviously it was lopsided, but that was no indication as to how our boys played on the field and how they continue to get after it and do their best. You know, sometimes you're outmanned. That's right. And that was the case. They got a couple kids that. And again, you're talking about a system, but you got to have players that run that system.
No doubt.
And that's why they've been able to play in a state championship 4 out of the last 5 years or whatever that is. And again, that's where Bacon County wants to try to get. We want to move toward that and use that as motivation, like you said.
Well, and you know, they got a lot of experience. Their coaches son's a quarterback, and
Yeah.
he does a real good
Real
job,
good job.
and can get them out, in and out of stuff. We knew a couple times in holler out there what play they were fitting to run, by the formation they run, he'd get up there and check them out of it.
Change it. I saw
And, you
that
know,
several
those kind of
times.
things that that's experience. You know, you've been in those battles before. You know what to do, and so we're learning that. It takes time.
They got a running back, the Lundy kid. I know his brother's at Florida
That's
State.
right.
He plays linebacker, and now he's running the ball a little bit for him. So he's some pedigree there. Again, just it is what it is, and you know we wrapped up that our regular season, and now we start over 0-0.
That's right.
Coach, no wins, no losses.
That's right.
We will be the 4 seed, and I mentioned earlier we're going to be traveling to Swainsboro. But before I mention Swainsboro, I also want to talk about the other teams in our region and what they'll be doing. Irwin ended up being that number 1 seed. They defeated Brooks a couple weeks ago, and they'll be hosting Jefferson County. I believe this is Region 4, Region 3 or 4?
4.
Region 4. Brooks County is going to have their hands full with Blakely. Blakely County, they've played well all season. So they'll be hosting them, and then Pelham will travel to Dublin as our 3 seed. And then I mentioned our Raiders will be driving over to Swainsboro, which is not an unfamiliar place for us. We were in the same region for the last several years, and so again we're not shoot up US 1 there to get to Swainsboro, and we'll see what happens. Again, it's everything is the slate is clean. They got a good football team. I think they were a Final Four team last year.
Right.
Got most everybody back.
They ranked 2 in the state, so you know they do a good job. I saw Coach Roberts earlier in the week, their head coach, and their defensive coordinator was mine at Bryan County, so I know Coach Jersey well. And I was talking to both of them, and this same group that are seniors finished 3 and 7 or either 4 and 6 their freshman year, because they had to play a bunch of them. So they worked their way up, freshmen, sophomores, and so they know what we're going through too. But they got a good team, and I'll be honest with you, we probably had the best week of practice we've had all year. Our kids came out very intense, very hard practices, and man, they were just getting after it. And loved their effort, and like I say, that's what I'm talking about character, not giving up. Because I'll be honest, I've coached teams that I've built programs, and I've coached teams with the same record we got, same youth as we got, and boy, getting at the end of the year trying to get them to do anything.
They're ready to play basketball or move on.
But man, I'm telling you what, we probably had the best week of practice we've had.
Well, Coach, that's great to hear. I mean, you said a couple of times this season where this was the best week we've had, and but man, for the first week of the playoffs and knowing what we're going up against, the number 1 seed in their house, and our kids to get up like that, and again, it's just a testament, folks, not only to our young men. Again, I keep bragging on this coaching staff, and what Coach Wilson, what you bring to the table, and then that contrast of that younger group of coaches that we have with your son and others that are again just doing a real good job of getting these guys prepared week in and week out. And again, that just that's food for the soul right there. Just to know that these guys are still cranking it out and working hard and anticipating something special potentially happen tomorrow night. You've said it before.
Exactly.
You know, it's you always talk about David versus Goliath and this and that and 4 seeds hardly. You look at the stats and all, but you can throw all that out the window. You never know.
Exactly right.
It takes just a couple turnovers, a couple big plays. Got a couple guys right here behind the camera that can definitely make something happen and create some excitement Friday night. As we dive into the first round of the state playoffs, and this is the first time we've been in the playoffs in about 5 or 6 years. I don't remember the date off my top of my head, but we actually went down to Brooks County and played them.
That's right.
Might have been 16 or something, right? 15 or 16.
15, I think.
Was it 15?
Yeah, I think it was 15.
And but anyway, so we're excited as a community to be able to go and do this. We will be going to broadcast this game. Talking about the weather, it looks like the rain and most of the wind is going to move out tomorrow afternoon after lunch, somewhere between 2 and 4 o'clock. And it should be relatively nice. It might be a little wet where we're headed, but it should be relatively nice weather. And the weekend's going to be great. But 7 o'clock kickoff. It's a little different. It's not 7:30. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff. We'll be broadcasting live as well if you can't make the trip. Now, the past 3 or 4 years that we've been over to Swainsboro, we haven't been able to to broadcast live. We just went and recorded it simply because of the poor connectivity that we have over there with Verizon. I'm not knocking Verizon, it just is what it is. But I do have, as we went over to Pelham a couple weeks ago, I do have a new piece of equipment that the Red Raider Booster Club partnered with me and BCTV to help us purchase, that we'll be able to, I believe, get that signal out this time. It's a special router, so again, we will try our best, and you really can't even get out a message on Facebook and Messenger to let people know anything's going on or bad or whatever. It's that bad. But hopefully, again, we'll be able to broadcast live out of Swainsboro. Talked with Coach Pollock yesterday.
Right.
And he's the AD there now.
Yes.
You know him personally?
I do.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I've sent him a message yesterday morning, just making sure we were good to go, and he called me back and was very hospitable. I look forward to meeting him. He said to call him when I got there. And so again, we're excited to go over to the playoffs and just see what happens, Coach.
That's right. We like I said, we've gotten after it this week, and like I said, never know when God has a plan, and you never know when it's his turn to turn it around.
That's right. That's right. Well, either way, win, lose, or draw, these young men have learned a lot this year, and they know what it's going to, and they've seen
That's right.
what it's going to take to be successful, to compete, and that's all we've ever wanted and asked. Everybody likes to win, no doubt, but we like to see our kids compete, give them an opportunity to do so. And I think that's what you and this staff's going to do as we move forward. As you said, we're extremely young, and when you compare, like you just said earlier, when you compare how many games some of these teams have played compared to how many games our kids have played in recent years, it's just mind-boggling, and that's where we want to be. So. Again, folks, we encourage you to come out. A couple announcements real quick. Our Lady Raider competition cheerleading team, we just sent them off this morning. Thursday morning, they're headed to Macon, Georgia to compete for a state championship themselves. So we want to congratulate Coach Bordeaux and her staff and all those young ladies. Folks, that cheerleading is, they say statistically, is more dangerous than playing football. There's girls sustain as many or more injuries than our football players do on Friday night. So for about 2.5 minutes, it's pretty crazy is what they compete for, and they don't get any second chances. It's not. That's it. So we want to wish them the best of luck as and again, safe travels to Macon. I think they'll actually compete on Saturday. They got some practice stuff these next couple of days, and again, wish them the best of luck. So again, encourage you to come out. Please make that trip to Swainsboro if possible. Again, experience that playoff atmosphere. But if you can't, we will be broadcasted live at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. So if you do drive over, leave 30 minutes earlier than you normally would. Our band will be going. Obviously, the cheerleaders will be there. Band will perform. So let's go out and support all of these young men and women that support Raider Nation. So once again, I want to thank you for joining myself, Brent Johnson, Coach Mark Wilson, on this week's edition of the Red Raider Coaches Show.